Little man together with the French lorry driver. They got earlier retirement at 55.
He was on the Regis Canal.
These are real presents I'll be giving away at the end of the month. Who wants a Christmas toy end of the month? I've only got 25.
Liverpool dockers have conducted in support of the 500 of their members that were sacked by the Mersey Docks and Harbour Board. I'm sure you know that this campaign has given heart to millions of people, not only in Britain, but all over the world. And what we have learned from the campaign is that if people take a stand in support of principle, they will win support. We are told in the press that all this business of industrial action in support of rights is out of date, but it is not true. And when I was last in Liverpool, and there were people there from California and New Zealand and all over Europe, and the Turkish workers were there as well, it was an indication of what the Liverpool dockers have succeeded in doing, supported by women of the waterfront, just as the miners were supported by the women's support groups. And I think the importance of what you're doing goes far beyond the issue of the Liverpool docks, because what you are doing is giving confidence to other people who are suffering and who have come to believe that nothing could be done. If you look around this country now, you'll find literally millions of people suffering in one way or another. People who are unemployed, people who are homeless, people who are living on £1.50 an hour, which is the level of low pay in many sweated trades. Pensioners who are denied a proper increase in line with earnings as well as prices. The people who created the nation's wealth. Women, single-parent mothers who are now being targeted by the government. Students who are having to pay for their education. Wherever you look, you find people getting inspiration from what the Liverpool dockers and the support groups have done. And when you look at France and what the French lorry drivers did with the support of the overwhelming majority of the French people, you can see what the result is. They got retirement at 55, they got higher wages, they got shorter hours, they got better safety conditions, and they did it by what they themselves organized without waiting for permission from anybody at the top. Now, in my opinion, 1997 is going to be a very significant year. Not just because the bunch of crooks that run the country are going to be defeated. That's important. But what's really important is the day after polling day, people will realize that it is possible to make a change, and that's when that change will really begin. And what we need is an alliance in which I think the Liverpool dockers will play a central role, building a movement across the whole country, demanding the things that people are entitled to have: a job, a living wage, a home to live in, lifelong education, good health care, free at the point of use, dignity when we are old, and peace. Everywhere, all over the world, that has been the historic demand of working people. The gap between rich and poor is getting wider. 447 billionaires have now got the same income as half of the population of the world put together. There are 1 billion people unemployed in the world. There are 20 million unemployed in the European Union. There are 1,300,000,000 people in the world without a clean water supply. And 85% of all the weapons sold in the world are sold by the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. No one is going to persuade me that such a system is durable. But it only continues because people think there's nothing they can do. They've been frightened by unemployment into accepting what nobody should accept. And the purpose of this campaign and the purpose of our work in the year that lies ahead is to end that of confidence and give people the belief, which is certainly true, that we can do better if we work together. I believe what we're witnessing now is not just an attack on socialism or trade unionism, it is an attack upon democracy itself. When I saw in the paper this morning all those lovely euro notes, I thought to myself of the old Bible story of giving up your birthright for a mess of pottage. They're trying to bribe people into accepting control of the world by bankers. And if we allowed that to happen, all the struggles in history of the Tolpuddle martyrs, of the Chartists, of the suffragettes, of the anti-apartheid movement, of the poll tax campaign, all those struggles would be wasted, and we cannot let it happen. I'm a great admirer of Liverpool. I think it's the finest city in Britain because it has a tradition of struggle. I've been up there many times when the council was in trouble with the government and all the campaigns there have been in Liverpool. And when things are very dark, which they sometimes are, I thank God for Liverpool. I thank God for the Liverpool Dockers. Good luck, all the best. We're going to win this one.
The workers united will never be defeated. The workers united will never be defeated. The workers united will never be defeated.
By the police are down there.
Thank you for coming. At least I got interviewed for the telly.
All right, Phil. Hold down. Hold down.
Sorry, sorry. time, mate. Okay.
today, and everybody's worked very, very hard for today. It's been a celebration, as you all well know, for the 14 months of struggle that the Liverpool Dockers have been going through. And as you all know, one of the biggest obstacles in front of the Liverpool Dockers is today because John's really helpful in it today. I'd like to invite John to say a few words for him.
Well, first of all, thank you to the Liverpool Dockers for what you're doing for us. I can't tell you how much that acclamation means to me, but I thank you. And those of us who aren't at the cutting edge of this struggle, as you are, deserve the gratitude of people throughout this country, because it's not just your own struggle, and that's powerful enough, heroic enough, and just enough, but it's what you represent. You're struggling on behalf of people throughout this country, most of the workforce and those who are not at work. And if I can offer appreciation on behalf of them, I certainly do. I think there's something else here that I'd just like to mention. It's, again, not just the rights that the Liverpool Dockers struggle so eloquently expresses, and that's the right to work, the right to a decent life, the right to decent wages, the right to security, the right to come home at night and feel you're going to work the next morning. There's also the public's right to know about it. I feel very strongly about that. I don't think I did anything extraordinary by writing about the Liverpool Dockers, because it's a magnificent story and it's a magnificent struggle. And professionally, it should have been on the front pages, on the television news, on the radio news a long time ago. And I would suggest, if there are journalists here, that they just might take reckoning of the silence, that the media silence that has so characterized this struggle over the last 14 months. Yes, there's been coverage in the Liverpool Echo. The local BBC man in Manchester told me he'd done 4 pieces, 2 on radio, 2 on television. I saw one of them on the anniversary day actually on September the 30th, and it was the usual stuff, quoting the company about how there were anarchists on the picket line, and the usual tied, hackneyed jargon that used to come through the 70s, moderates and extremists and so on. The usual rubbish, in other words. And it's about time journalists started living up to their own credo. We hear from the BBC about how impartial they are. Well, it's about time that impartiality was truly exercised, and journalists started to talk about the other side of Britain, the majority of Britain, the suppression of the Liverpool Dockers struggle, I think is is typical of the suppression that has a long history that goes back actually to the birth of the BBC, when Lord Reith, the inventor of impartiality, broadcast propaganda on behalf of the Baldwin government against the strikers in the general strike. That was the birth of the BBC. And we've had to have a load of nonsense about every time a BBC journalist stands in front of a camera or in front of a microphone. They are elevated to some nirvana of impartiality. Well, as we all know, that impartiality is fine until there's something that threatens the order. And the Liverpool, the established order, the Liverpool dockers struggle, like the miners before it, like the poll tax struggle before it, threatens the established order. And that's the reason for the silence. But I would say directly to journalists that they break that silence. Journalists can do it. Journalists can do it individually. It's sometimes difficult because they work within institutions. I've worked within some of these institutions. I know how difficult it is. But it should be done. If the will is there, both individually and collectively, journalists can do it. It can start telling the truth about the struggle that is going on in this country among dockers, among health workers, among people in low-paid jobs, people in transport, right across the country. You know, you can look at the back of the left press and see how many meetings, how many demonstrations, how much action is going on. And you look in the mainstream press and there's absolutely nothing there. Now it's about time these events were covered, because they not only represent the majority of people in this country, they represent the best of this country, as the Liverpool does. I'll just end by saying we had a vivid example of a great victory across the channel recently. Many of my colleagues think I'm being too harsh on them. I followed the BBC coverage of the French truckers' strike, and all I can remember was the Paris correspondent attacking the employer's representative, saying, but surely you've been blackmailed, you've been held hostage by these people. And in the end, it was the employer's representative that had to put the case for the truckers. Because the BBC man wouldn't, there was nothing on the several items that I heard, there was on radio, there was nothing from the truckers themselves. Now, it was reported in this country as something that British truckers felt badly about, that you know, the great wonder of the European community was being held up. We weren't getting our carrots on time or something. In fact, it was one of the great victories, and here in a country where trade union membership is so much lower than it is here, the idea that there cannot be militant action, that there cannot be trade union action, that there cannot, that a group of unofficial, seemingly isolated workers cannot trigger the sort of the internationalism that the dockers have triggered. That is a story. That is something that can happen in this country. It doesn't just happen across the channel. It can happen in this country. But people need to know about it, so that that solidarity and that support can be forthcoming. And
the exception is the Morning Star.
Well, the exception is the Morning Star, and the exception is the Socialist Worker, and the exception is militant, and all the left press. Just suggesting that the majority of people who perhaps look at the television, listen to the radio, and read other newspapers have a right to know. Thank you.
John Poodle, I just asked him to go and speak outside. As I will ask all the speakers, because we've got simultaneous... Oh, right. Right, forget that one. It's all going on in here. Okay, as you all know, the Dockers dispute has also, what's been brilliant about it has been the women's group, which has run alongside the Dockers struggle. And I'm proud and pleased to welcome now Elaine Campbell from the Women of the Waterfront.
Irene Campbell. My sister Elaine's outside. Just before I start, I'd like to mention that there's some t-shirts and badges on sale outside in the foyer, if anyone cares to purchase them. Also, the Dockers have done their own video, and this has got to be watched because it covers a whole multitude of things, not just the Dockers disputes, it covers the Reclaim the Streets that were involved in it, and also the Women of the Waterfront. And please, if you would, purchase this. It'll be raising funds for the Dockers as well. I think it's the cost of £10, but it's well worth it, I assure you. We're all in it. Anyway, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for coming, because without you people, we wouldn't be able to manage anyway. But why are we here? Why should we be here? This is our country, and these jobs belong to our men. Our fathers have already fought for these jobs, so why should we be doing it the second time round? We're a democracy, and now it's time to tell these greedy bosses that we are not for tyranny, you tyranny, as Maggie Thatcher once said. But women have also fought along their men in this struggle, and we intend to carry on. These jobs belong to us. The men built them. Well, I think we did anyway. The men built them, we worked on them, and we strive for them. And why should we let them go? No way. We're not going to let them. When our men are ready to retire with dignity, let them do that if they so wish. And let the men go back and work who want them jobs, who deserve them jobs, who built them up to what they were, who fought for the standards that's down there now. The standards what they fought for are now being destroyed down there, and we can't let this happen. We stood outside that gate with dignity. We're going to walk back in them gates with dignity. But we've also suffered. We've had sadness and we've had humour. We've stood in Transport House many a time and mourned. We've stood in silence and mourned members of our family and members of other people's families, Dockers that have died. But there was no benefit there at the end of it, was there? No financial benefit for us. People have had to sell policies to survive in this dispute. So if anything happens to any of our members and our people, we just have to let the social bury it. Nevertheless, we're still here and we're going to carry on. Those men in this dispute never had a mark on their character in their lives. And now they're being made criminals of by Merseydock and Harbour Company and by the police that's being told what to do by Merseydock and Harbour Company. I don't like us, the women who stand alongside us don't like us, and we're not going to stand for us anymore. We are going to fight this tooth and nail. We women are the economists in this dispute. We are the ones who put the food on the table. Well, we used to. We can't afford to have casual labour. Is anybody going to give us casual mortgages, casual gas bills, or casual electricity? We will survive. Well, the likes of you people will survive, and we'll carry on this fight, not just for us, but for everyone. For the youngsters who are coming up, there's no job there for them, but we've got to make sure there is, and we'll keep it that way. And Jimmy Dale's right. We will survive. We will rebuild. The river will rise again. So victory to the Liverpools office.
On behalf of the London Support Group, I'd like to welcome everyone here. I think we're just on the tip of the iceberg, both with the mobilisation support and the financial assistance that we can give. There's two things that you should know about the London Support Group. We work under the jurisdiction of the Liverpool Shop Stewards Committee. Essential. Quite unique in many ways, the struggles. The other part of the London Support Group is it's open to everyone. We meet every Thursday in the King's Arms in Swinton Street at the King's Cross Station. We expect to see a lot more people at those regular meetings. Don't come this Thursday, come on Wednesday. Because on Wednesday we're having a different night, a bit of a social, and we're going to watch the Ken Loach film, BBC 2, 9 o'clock. Don't miss it. But my purpose of being up here is a little bit like Father Christmas, not with such a full sack. I would like to thank all those who have responded to the hamper deal with the Hillingdon and the Liverpool doctors. It's been a tremendous effort, but it's only just started. I would urge you all to go away from here with a doctor's charter. In that charter, you'll see the names and addresses where you can donate further monies, and you can also buy cards. And at the back, I think, of the hall, you'll see there's other merchandise which will go to keep this money going forward. I'd like to give the following card to Market and hope that it eases the struggle just a little bit, £500. A few more in Liverpool, but we don't quite have a 50 factor. We do have a cheque for £1,000, and we hope that will ease the Christmas and make it a little bit more pleasurable, but I'm sure there's more to come. Thank you.
And I'm sure that a lot of people have taken their inspiration from them. Thank you very much. Okay, our next speaker, I have a confession to make to you all. I'm in the Labour Party. I don't know for how long, but there are still a few good socialists in the Labour Party. That's absolutely true, I know that. There were 38 MPs who signed the advertisement for this demonstration which went into The Guardian, and one of those people was Jeremy Corbyn. And Jeremy's from the Socialist campaign group of MPs, and he's here to speak to you now.
Thanks very much indeed, and welcome to London to all our comrades who've come from Liverpool. Even Santa Claus sent a representative. He was so pleased to see you, okay? And the admiration that an awful lot of people have got for the Liverpool Dockers is because we admire the way for 15 months you've campaigned and stood outside and demanded your jobs back, but also because people are up against it. Fighting CCT, fighting privatisation, fighting market testing, fighting rent rises, fighting job cuts. They see in your struggle some of themselves, and they see a solidarity because we're all fighting exactly the same struggle. That is the message that we've got to get across. But what's also so important about the Liverpool Dockers struggle is that it's understood the importance of international solidarity in winning battles against a very well organised, internationally organised capitalist class in Europe and throughout the world. And it's that sense of internationalism that I think we should draw a lot of attention to. Because I can't be the only person who can be amazed that dockers throughout Western Europe, throughout Scandinavia, throughout Turkey and many, many other places around the world have recognised the importance of the Liverpool Dockers struggle, because they recognise that if privatisation and casualisation can take place that affects one shipping line or dozens of shipping lines in one port, then exactly the same thing can be copied in their ports all over the world. Over in the United States in June for the founding conference of the American Labour Party. Two things hit me from that conference. One was that none of the participants in that conference, or those that had made that historic step to break with the Tweedledum and Tweedledee of American politics, wanted to go down the road of New Labour and the right in Britain. They wanted to see a real Labour Party representing the interests of the working class of the United States. What they also did was recognise the importance of industrial struggles in other countries. As much of the conference was taken up with establishing the party in the United States, as much time was spent in solidarity with workers in Mexico, in South Asia, and crucially with the Liverpool Dockers, and I was able to bring back a very substantial donation to the picket line fund for the Liverpool Dockers, collected mainly by the longshoremen all over the United States. That is that sense of solidarity that's there. Now, it ought to be that 15 months into an historic dispute like the Liverpool Dockers, coming to London for a march, having had the brilliant article and publicity given by John and many, many others in support of the Liverpool Dockers, it ought to be that the entire Labour movement was here today to welcome the Liverpool Dockers. And I think there's two important messages from this. One is to learn the effect of Tory anti-trade union law, which is attempting to turn every trade union into a police force of its own members rather than a representative body of its members. That is why they threaten sequestration, they threaten the buildings, they threaten the funds, as indeed they tried to destroy the miners' union. But in my experience, as indeed in our recent history over the 1970 Industrial Relations Act, you don't defeat anti-trade union legislation by cooperating with it, you defeat it by opposing it. The importance of standing up to the anti-trade union laws and demanding that the Labour Party, which receives so much money and support from the trade unions, pledges itself to the repeal of those laws which are designed to break solidarity action. And I must say, I can't be the only person that feels a sense of anger when so many of the resources of the Labour movement are put into conducting opinion polls, meeting focus groups, even, dare I say, trying to influence BBC telephone polls. I'm sure it's all a nasty rumour, but there you go. Why on earth, with all the media opportunities at our disposal, all the organisation, all the money and all those resources, why are we campaigning against privatisation, against the slave labour conditions, in favour of a minimum wage, and all the things that are essential to redistribute power and wealth within our society?